Let us start with the most common thing you will hear from a daily cleaner when you ask them why they do it. They will say, "I just feel better when things are clean. I cannot relax when the house is messy. It stresses me out." And most people will nod politely and think, "Okay, that's a little intense, but sure." But psychologists hear something completely different when someone says those words. They hear, "My external environment is directly connected to my internal sense of safety." Let me say that again because it matters. For daily cleaners, the outside world is not separate from the inside world. The state of their home is the state of their mind. A messy living room does not just look untidy, it feels threatening. It produces an almost physical sensation of unease that does not go away until things are in order. And here's where the real story begins. A lot, not all, but a lot of people who compulsively maintain order in their homes grew up in environments that were chaotic. Not necessarily dirty, but emotionally chaotic, unpredictable. Maybe there was a parent who was volatile. Maybe the household was financially unstable. Maybe things were fine one day and falling apart the next, and nobody explained why. When a child grows up in that kind of environment, they cannot control what the adults around them do. They cannot control the arguing, the financial stress, the emotional instability. But you know what they can control? Their room. Their toys arranged in a specific way, their bed made perfectly every morning. Cleaning becomes the one island of control in a sea of uncertainty. And then those children grow up, and they become adults, and the chaos of childhood is gone, but the nervous system never got the memo. So they keep cleaning, they keep ordering, they keep straightening, because somewhere deep in the body, not even consciously, it still feels like the thing standing between them and everything falling apart. That is not a flaw. That is survival. That is a child who found a way to cope, and it worked. It just never got updated. Now, let me talk about something that hits close to home for a lot of people in this country specifically. In America, and I say this with love because this is our culture, cleanliness is tied to morality in a way that is almost religious. Think about how we talk about it. A clean house means you have your life together. A dirty house means you are lazy, irresponsible, out of control. We say things like, "I could never let my house get like that," as if the state of someone's floors is a direct reflection of their character. We grew up hearing things like, "Cleanliness is next to godliness." We grew up watching commercials where the mother in the spotless kitchen was always smiling, always put together, always in control. We absorbed the message early. A clean home means you are a good person, a good mother, a good partner, a good American. And so, for daily cleaners, especially women, though certainly not only women, there is often a layer of shame underneath the cleaning that nobody talks about. It is not just, "I feel better when it is clean." It is also, "I am afraid of what people will think if it is not. I'm afraid of being judged. I'm afraid that if someone shows up unannounced and sees a pile of laundry on the couch, they will think less of me, that my worth as a person will somehow be measured in whether my baseboards are dusty." That is an exhausting way to live, and millions of people are living it right now, today, without ever naming it. Let me talk about the other side of this, because it is not all rooted in anxiety and childhood wounds. Some of it is genuinely beautiful. There is a real and legitimate psychological concept called behavioral activation, which is a fancy way of saying action changes mood, not the other way around. You do not wait to feel motivated to clean, you clean and then you feel better. And daily cleaners understand this instinctively, even if they have never heard the term. When life feels heavy, and life in America right now feels heavy for a lot of people, sometimes the only thing you can do is grab a sponge and clean the bathroom. Not because it fixes anything, but because it is something. It is movement. It is tangible proof that you did something today, that you have some agency in a world that often feels completely out of your control. There's research that shows that people who maintain tidy living spaces tend to sleep better, eat healthier, and report lower levels of stress. Not because being clean makes you virtuous, but because visual clutter competes for your attention. Your brain is constantly processing every item in your environment, and a disordered space keeps your nervous system on low-level alert all day long without you even realizing it. So, for the daily cleaner who says, "I just cannot relax when things are messy," that is not irrational. That is neuroscience. Your brain literally cannot fully rest in visual chaos. But now I want to get really honest with you. And I say this with so much compassion. Sometimes cleaning every day is a coping mechanism that crosses a line. When does it cross that line? When you are cleaning instead of feeling. When the mop comes out every time there is an uncomfortable emotion that needs to be processed. When you find yourself reorganizing the pantry at 11 at night because you just had a hard conversation with your spouse and you do not know what to do with what you are feeling. When cleaning becomes the way you avoid sitting with yourself. I think a lot of us know someone, who after a divorce, after a loss, after something that broke their world open, cleaned their house obsessively for months. Everything spotless, everything in its place. And from the outside, it looked like they were coping beautifully, holding it together, being strong. But what was really happening was that they could not cry. They could not grieve. They could not be still long enough for the pain to surface. So they cleaned instead. Because a clean house felt like evidence that they were okay, even when they were absolutely not okay. And the heartbreaking thing is that nobody checked on them, because the house was clean, so they must be fine. This is one of the most quietly devastating things about how we handle pain in this country. We reward the performance of coping. We celebrate the person who keeps functioning, who keeps showing up, who keeps the house spotless, and we never ask, hey, are you actually okay in there? There is also something I want to name that is specifically tied to mothers in this country. The invisible labor of keeping a home clean every single day falls disproportionately on women. That is not an opinion. It is documented in study after study. Even in households where both partners work full-time, women are still doing the majority of the cleaning, the organizing, the mental load of noticing what needs to be done and doing it. And here is what that does to a person over time. It creates a deeply exhausting and deeply invisible kind of resentment, because you are not just tired from cleaning, you are tired of being the one who always notices, the one who cares, the one who cannot leave a dish in the sink because if you do, nobody else will touch it for 3 days. And then when someone finally says, wow, the house looks great, you smile and say thank you, instead of saying what you actually want to say, which is, I have been holding this entire home together with my bare hands while also working and raising children and managing every appointment and grocery list and social obligation for this family. And what I actually need is for someone to notice before it gets done, not after. That is not a cleaning issue. That is a love language issue, a respect issue, a partnership issue. And it gets buried under the daily act of wiping counters. So, what do we do with all of this? If you are a daily cleaner, first, honor it, seriously. The discipline and care you bring to your environment is a genuine strength. It comes from a place of deep feeling, of caring, of wanting order and safety and beauty in your space. That is not neurotic. That is human. But also, ask yourself this question honestly. When I reach for the broom, what am I reaching away from? Sometimes the answer is nothing. You genuinely just like a clean house and it makes your day better. That is completely valid and there is nothing to fix. But sometimes, if you sit quietly with that question, you might find that underneath the cleaning there is something waiting, a feeling that needs to be felt, a conversation that needs to be had, a grief that needs to be acknowledged, a need that you have been sweeping under the rug along with everything else. And the broom cannot reach that. The solution is not to stop cleaning, it is to also start sitting, start feeling, start giving yourself the same care and attention you give your home. Because here's the truth that I want you to really land on today. Your home is not you. It is a reflection of something in you, but it is not you. You could live in the most perfectly clean house on the street and still be falling apart on the inside. And you could live in a house that has a little clutter and a few dishes in the sink and be the most emotionally whole, grounded, genuinely happy person in your neighborhood. The outside can only do so much. At some point, and this is the real work, you have to clean the inside too. So, to bring it all together, people who clean their house every single day are not just clean people. They are often deeply feeling people. People who grew up needing control in a world that felt unpredictable. People who have tied their sense of safety and self-worth to the order of their environment. People who are coping, surviving, loving, and sometimes hiding, all through the act of cleaning. And if that is you, I see you. I really do. Not the clean house. You. The person behind the sponge who is trying so hard to hold everything together and deserves so much more gentleness than the world is giving them right now. Take care of your home, but please take care of yourself too. I will see you in the next one.